blasters are full.
What's up guys, Gripe here with a review of the Arts Kai Spiderman figure from Square Enix. So we'll start off by checking out the packaging, and on the front we've got a really cool picture of Spider-Man doing some web slinging there, and that picture carries over to the side of the box here. And on the back of the box we have a few pictures of the figure in different poses, a brief description of the articulation and some Japanese writing. On this side we have the Arts Kai logo and the Spider-Man label. And on the top there's a Arts Kai logo, let me spin that around for you, and a warning not to eat the parts. And on the bottom we have the Square Enix logo. And like all your Arts Kai boxes, the front is a flap with some magnetic clasps, so I will open that so you can have a better view. Just pause it if you want to read it. And here's the figure when you take it out, and you can see this thing is just jam-packed with accessories. And here's the insert behind the figure, and this has instructions for the accessories as well as the stand. So here's all the parts laid out for the stand, and here it is assembled. And I have to say this stand is definitely sturdier than the one that came with my Iron Man figure, and everything just fits together better, which is nice. And here's the plethora of accessories that you get with this figure all laid out, and I'll go over them one by one so you get a better look. So we'll start off with the hands on this figure, and this figure comes with 5 sets of hands. And you can see everything is really nicely detailed with the paint and sculpt. You got the web shooter sculpted in here. You've got the lines in the palm are all sculpted in. The webbing on the back is all sculpted. Really nice paint apps with the silver for the webbing and a nice shading in the red where it goes from a nice bright red to a dark red around the knuckles. And here we have the fists. And same thing here. You can see all the nice gradient in the paint apps and all the details in the sculpt. And here we have the hands that are in the web slinging position, and I really like the way the fingers are curved on this. It looks a lot like the way it is in the comic books. It's not a very straight finger like you see on some of the figures. And here we have the grasping hands, and these are used to hold the long web strand, and I'll show you that in a minute. And last but not least, we have the web shooting hands. And these are similar to the other ones, except they do have some webbing coming out of them like that. And you can see that hole there, that is where the rest of the web accessories mount, and I'll show you how that works right now. And I really like what PlayArts did with these accessories. You can mix and match them and get some really cool and interesting action poses with the figure. So you have one of the web cones here. You have 2 of these small strands and 2 of these web balls. And you can plug any of those in like this. It is a bit tight, so you want to kind of give it a twist when you're putting it in, and it'll get in there firmly. And there you have the ball. And you can do just the cone. And you can do just the strand. And a really cool thing with the strand is it also has a hole in the end. So you can use that with the cone and the ball, or you could use it by itself. You just do have to bear in mind that the strand is fairly flexible. So it's not as bad with the cone, but the ball will kind of weigh it down a little bit and you'll get some sag on there. So just keep that in mind when you're posing the figure. You might want to go with a downward angle on the strand, and it should look pretty good when you're displaying it. It also comes with this really nice long web strand here, and this tapered end you would want to mount somewhere in the top of your display. And then you use the gripping hands here, and you get those on the bottom, and once they're secure you can mount the figure to it and have him dangle from it, which is really cool. It is a bit of a pain to get the strand in his hand. You kind of want to work it over the thumb first like this, and then into the rest of the fingers. It does take some time and effort, but once you get it, it's fairly stable. And you have this thing. It does look cool, but I really don't know what it's for. It's just flat plastic. It's got some nice silver paint on it for the web, but I really can't figure out what it's for. I guess you could use it as an alternate stand to just mount Spider-Man on. Right now it's just sitting on my Arts Kai stand. So now I'll check out the figure itself, and we will start off with the paint and sculpt first. And this is a Arts Kai variant figure, so some people might not like the overall styling of it. Personally, I think it came out great and looks really good on this Spider-Man. And if you've seen any of the other PlayArt variant figures, you know it looks similar in that it's got a very angular style to it. But again, I do think it looks great, and the sculpt is really nicely detailed. There isn't a single line on this thing that isn't sculpted into it. Nothing's just painted on. And the paint application is done really well on this figure. All these colors have some type of shading or gradient applied to them. You can see in the mask here, it's really dark in the back and gets really bright red up front. And pretty much every red and blue is similar on this figure. They all have some type of gradient or shading. There's also some really interesting sculpted details. They have a textured detail in some of the areas of the figure. It's like a mesh texture and very similar to the Spider-Man movie costume. You can see it here in this back area. There's a little bit here on the side and some more up front on the chest here. There's also some on the thigh there and on the boots. And I think that came out really cool, and it adds a really nice detail to the overall sculpt. It also gives you a really good idea of just how detailed this sculpt is. Like I said before, every line is sculpted in. You've got those nice little texture areas, and overall it just came out really, really nice. One thing to bear in mind is the top of the chest is a soft plastic as well as the belt area. This is similar to the Iron Man figure that I reviewed from PlayArts, but unlike that one, you can see this one sits really nicely on the figure, and you can't tell it's just soft plastic kind of dangling there. And looking back at the sculpt, you can also see that that Spider-Man logo, that is actually sculpted on and not just painted. And that carries over the shoulder there. And you can see all the nice webbing in the neck and head here, and the great eyes, which are sculpted away from the body and have a great silver paint. It's also got some really nice treads sculpted into the bottom of the feet here. Those are really nicely detailed. And while I think the paint application overall was really nice on this figure, there were a few small issues that I found. You can see the paint is a bit marred here on the back, and I'm not quite sure if that was just touched before it was finished drying or not. There's also a little bit of a blue paint on the textured red area, and you can see there's some overpaint here. Looks like they got some of the blue from the bright blue area on it. You can also see there's some nice wrinkled details on the inside of the hips, and I like the details they added on the armpits of this thing. So now check out the articulation on the figure, and we'll start with the head and neck. And there are 3 separate joints in the head and neck. There's one at the base of the neck, and there's 2 ball sockets connected by a rod up top. And it allows you to shimmy the head back and forth like that. You could also do it side to side. And the neck does independently move as well. And you can get him to look down really far. He's practically looking at his toes. You can see the neck does kind of pop out a little bit up top. And you can get him to look back or look up a decent amount. And again, the bottom of the neck kind of sticks out over his chest a little bit. This is the same thing that happened with the PlayArts Kai Iron Man, but it's not nearly as bad on the Spider-Man as it was in the Iron Man. You can get some side-to-side movement. You can see the neck's really rotating more than going side to side, but the head does tilt quite a bit. And you do get full rotation, and you do have rotation on the neck as well. But you are limited in the rotation by the soft plastic. It's really tight against the neck here. It's the same reason why you can't move it side to side. You can get the arms up pretty far. You can actually get them even farther, but if you go any farther, you can see the soft plastic here starts to deform, and it looks a little odd. And they use a completely different shoulder joint in this compared to the PlayArts Kai Iron Man that I reviewed, and it alleviates all the issues I had with that one. And with this new joint, you do have the ability to pivot the shoulder in the joint like this, which I don't remember the Iron Man having. And you do have full arm rotation. You can get it all the way around. And it does have a bicep swivel, although the way the upper arm is cut, it kind of pushes it out of the joint if you really rotate it all the way around. You can see you just give it a twist and a push, and it's right back in there though. And it does have single jointed elbows. You can extend them completely straight, and you can bend them just over 90 degrees, maybe 100 degrees or so. And it does have rotation at the elbow. This figure has your typical swivel and hinge wrist joints, and because the joint is a bit more exposed than some other figures, it allows you a greater range of motion. You can see you can get it pretty much 90 degrees in any direction you choose, which is nice. And the diaphragm joint is the same as the Iron Man. It's a ball joint attached to a hinge. You do get a decent range of motion, but you can see some of the pieces kind of stick out, like the chest here. And if you go too far forward, because it is hinged, you kind of have to shift it back, otherwise you get a really big gap there. But it does give you a good range of motion. You just have to be careful when you're posing it so you can take care of those gaps. And you get a good amount of side to side on the joint as well, as you can see. And you do have full rotation. You can get it all the way around if you want. And this actually allows you to get a good view of the joint. You can kind of see what I was talking about. I just don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but hopefully you can see it. And there is a joint in the waist as well, although because the soft plastic belt area is so tight on this figure, it does limit it a little bit. You can get them pretty far back at the waist and a little bit forward, not too far. You can also get them a little bit side to side, as you can see. And you can rotate a little bit, but you can see there that that soft plastic is kind of holding it in place. And now check out the hips, and you can get them a little bit apart. You really can't get the legs that far apart, to be honest with you, and that might be due to the soft plastic belt area. I'm not 100% sure, but that's about as far as I can get it. And it looks like one of those legs should come out farther, but last time I tried to do that, I popped the leg off. You do have some rotation up at the top there, and you can get them to kick pretty far forward, almost straight out. And you can get them to kick really far back, but you can see the top of the leg kind of pokes out and it just looks weird. You just kind of get it back underneath that soft plastic there. And you've got a cut above the knee here, so you have full rotation there. So you can see you can get that all the way around if you need to. And I do have really nice double jointed knees. You can bend them pretty far back, which is good for Spider-Man. And they actually extend farther than straight, which is interesting. Ankles are pretty well articulated with one disappointment. You see you can get them down really far, which is nice. You can get them up a decent amount as well. And you can rotate them completely around. No pivot though, which is really disappointing. The toes are articulated. You can get those way up there, which is nice. And just a little bit below straight. And that's about it for articulation. So now we'll check out the size and scale of the figure. And we'll give him a quick measuring. And he stands at 10 inches exactly. Maybe a hair over, but that's about it. One of the issues with the Play Arts Kai is there's really no scale. As you can see, here he is next to the Play Arts Kai Iron Man, and they're pretty much the exact same size. So I think all their figures just measure in at 10 inches exactly. So overall, I think this is a really great figure. It's got a huge assortment of accessories. It is a variant styling, so I know that'll turn some people off. Me personally, I love it. I think the sculpt and paint on it are really nice. It does have a few small issues like lack of ankle pivot. I wish the elbows bent a little bit more. And there is a lot of soft plastic on it. Me, I don't really mind so much, but I know that does turn off some people. So I hope you guys liked the review and subscribe for more.
Blasters are full.